Good morning, dear Stitchers. It's Judy Whitman with JBW Designs, and welcome back to my Flosstube videos. This is number 61, and it is July 28th. And I want to thank you, as always, for taking the time to watch, for your wonderful comments and emails. Every time you write to me, it just makes my day. So thank you. And I have a favor to ask of you today. I am this close to getting 5,000 subscribers. I'm 21 people away. So my favor is, if you haven't subscribed yet and you enjoy the channel, that you do take the time to subscribe, or ask a couple friends if they might want to watch. And I'm sure that I can make it in this next week or so. So thank you. Thank you for doing that for me. So I have some really fun things to tell you about today. I'm doing my second part 2 of Christmas in July. It is just like the rest of the country, unbearably hot here. Not as bad as Phoenix or southern Florida, but it is going to be very warm and humid here today. So I am staying inside and drinking iced tea and hopefully designing and stitching. That's my goal for today. So my happy things to tell you about, and this is kind of cute because a week ago a friend of mine, Lindy, wrote to me, and at the end of her note she said, "Take time to smell the roses." And I thought, that is such great advice. If I had it my way, I could probably live up here. And I often do, but it's really important, especially with our short summers here in Michigan, to take time to do things with friends and to do things outdoors. So I'm happy to report to you that last week, this was kind of funny, my husband said to me that he was going to play golf with our grandson Tristan and our granddaughter Ashton. And I thought about that for a minute, and I thought, I don't play golf very often, but boy, I'd sure like to see the kids. Why don't I join them? So I did. I hadn't played in years, but we had such a good time, and they were so sweet. They were glad that I came along. When I'd have a good shot, they would compliment me. So that was a lot of fun. I'm glad I took time to do that. And then yesterday I had a visitor. And this was so cool. So a couple weeks ago, I showed a couple of antique samplers that I had for sale that a friend of a friend, had shown to me and wanted to know if I was interested in. Long story short, I kept one of the samplers. I sent one back to her actually because it didn't sell. And the third one actually had a bit of interest, and the gal that bought it is named Merritt Crawford. And Merritt has written to me before, we've corresponded, but we've never met in person. So it turns out that she lives only about 2.5 hours away in Ohio. And she said, "I'd love to come and pick up the sampler." And I thought, well, that sounds like fun. So she arrived yesterday about noon, and we went out for lunch. And, like all stitchers, I don't care if we've ever met before or not, we kind of have this immediate bond. And my husband was so cute because when I told him that she was coming, he said, "Have you ever met her before?" And I said, "No, but she's a friend." And he kind of laughed and he said, "Well, I think that's really nice." And we had the best time together. As you can imagine, from the time we met till the time she left, it was nonstop chatter about stitching and our lives. And so I want to tell you a little bit about Merritt. She's just adorable. Let's see. She has a company that's called, and I always have to read it to make sure I get it right. I will put this in the notes below. It's called Just Bee Cuzz. She actually has a Flosstube video. And she was so sweet. She brought me a little gift that she'd made, little cherries, which is kind of a symbol of Michigan because we have a very large cherry crop up in the northern part of the state. Look at this, isn't that darling? Her finishing is just lovely. And on that package, she had put this darling little pinwheel clip that she had made. that will be fun to put in my collection. And then she also has designs also. So I'm going to encourage you to go and watch her videos and look at some of her designs because they're just charming. And the name of these particular ones, this is called Souvenir Stitches, and it's a bicycle built for 2 silhouettes. And I was quite taken with her silhouettes because I actually have a silhouette collection in the upstairs bathroom up here, and they are silhouettes that I've black on white or tan that I've collected through the years. I have silhouettes of all my children and grandchildren, so I had to show her my collection of silhouettes. And then the second pattern that she gave to me is a horse and buggy silhouette. Aren't they just darling? So I might have to stitch this in either one of these and add them to the collection that I have framed. And then she also gave me a darling little package of napkins with cherries on them. So we just had the best time together. So yes, I am taking time to smell the roses, and I need to do this more often because meeting new people and we came back to my office here and spent after lunch and spent several hours talking. And so next time she comes, either I'm going to go to her house or I want her to come and bring stitching so we can just sit and stitch together. So that was one of the happy things that happened. And then let's see, I want to make sure, I want to mention several people today that are playing such an important role in my life and that who I am wanting to recognize. So the next thing I want to show you is that I got this darling thank you card. Look at this. And it's from Nancy Bates. And Nancy is the mother of Laura Duet, of Laura, Brenda, and the cereal starter. I always mess that up. And so I have met Laura before. I've met Nancy before. We actually met last winter. And I sent her something as a gift. And look at her handwriting is beautiful. I love her little return address sticker. And then this card is precious. And she just wrote the dearest notes. So, getting mail like that, and I've actually struck up several pen pal conversations with people who I write to regularly, is just so satisfying. I know you know that too. So some of the people that I want to mention today, this is a Flosstuber who I think is just wonderful to watch. Her name is Sarah, and many of you probably know about her already. She has quite a large following, and her Flosstube is called Sarah's Stitching Spot, and she lives in California, and she was a former physician. And what I love about Sarah, there's several things. She has this amazing kindness about her. She actually loves our stitching community, and she talks about that all the time and what joy the viewers of her channel have brought to her since she retired. She also is very aware of women's health and often will give us little advice about women's health issues. And it's just her, and then she has wonderful projects. Oh my gosh, she completes so many things. So that's just a recommendation. I just think she does such a good job. Another person that I want to recognize is Annie of The Proper Stitcher. And as you know, as many of you probably watch her, she has been so supportive of me ever since she started her Flosstubes. Of my designs. She stitches the designs. We have met in person a couple times, which has been fun. And she often stitches them. She shows you how she finishes them. So I always am so appreciative of the support she's given me. So now it's time for me to support Annie, because Annie has started a new business herself. And she released last week, many of you probably saw this on Instagram or on Facebook, she released 4 new designs. And she's doing the designs are from her collection of antique samplers. So 2 of the designs were reproductions, and the other 2 were adaptations of sampler designs. So she called them reimaginings. So I'm going to encourage you, go to Annie's website, check out what she's released. They're beautifully finished. Her booklets look lovely. So thank you, Annie. It's time for me to pay it back to you. So I really appreciate it. And then I also want to give you a little life update about my neighbor Sue. And I mentioned her 2 months ago. And I asked you for your prayers and thoughts and positive energy because her husband had been in a very, very serious accident. He was actually in the hospital and in rehab care for 2 months. And guess what? He came home 10 days ago. And he is doing so well. So our prayers and our positive thoughts really helped. And she is very grateful for those. So that's all my happy stuff for the beginning of the video, and I'll try to keep going with a positive note, right? So I had a couple questions from the last video that I want to address. And now if I can find them on my desk here. So one of them, and I thought this was a good question, so I'll address it. So in the last video, I showed a design called Be Merry, and I showed 2 models of it, the flat version and then also the drum version. And the gal that wrote to me had a very good question. She said, I don't think that those were stitched on the same thread count. And she's exactly right. So this version of Be Merry was stitched over 1 on a 28 count fabric. But the drum that I showed you was stitched over 2 on a 32 count fabric. So yes, I did use different fabrics for those models, so that might be something that you needed to know. At the end of the video, I want to show you some progress I've made on a project that I'm working on that's just for fun, and so I'll wait until the end to show you that part. So I have all kinds of Christmas designs that I pulled from my models to share with you today. Now, many of my models are still out at trunk shows, but I had a message this morning and one of my big trunk shows is on its way back to me. So that's wonderful news because there are things in that trunk show that I have been dying to show you. So hopefully in the next video, I'll be able to do some of that. So let's pull out some designs that I've done in the past using Christmas patterns. So this is part of a series that I showed you 2 of the designs last week and or 2 weeks ago, and I'm going to show you the booklets first here. So I talked to you about that I love doing red and white designs, and I talked to you about this little series that I finished into little pillows. I had a finishing kit that I was selling for one of them. Trying to think which one it was. I think it was either Tidings or Joy Noel. I'll have to look. Maybe I can write that in the notes before. But anyhow, I showed you 2 of the models last week, and I thought I'd show you the 3rd one this week. And this is called Oh Christmas Tree. The reason I'm not able to do a finishing kit for this any longer is that I have been unable to find this fabric. And as you know, if you are a quilter or a sewer or even looking for particular fabrics, often the companies, especially Moda and the other quilting companies, they release a fabric, but they don't usually reprint it. So I love this fabric, but as I say, I haven't been able to find it again. So this is what the Oak Christmas Tree model looks like. This was stitched on over 1 on a 28 count red linen from Witchold. And these designs all have the same feel to them as I mentioned before. I love using Christmas trees and let's see what else, and reindeer and hearts, and they're very kind of Scandinavian looking to me. But the finishing that my finisher did is to me what really sets them off. And incidentally, let me show you, I'm going to set this down. I did work Oh Christmas Tree with red on white on a 32 count and using 2 strands over 2. So you definitely don't have, of course, don't have to do the over one if that is too difficult for you. But it's the finishing that makes such a difference. So when I would send the designs to my finisher, I would send her fabrics, I would send her trims, and then she had trims, and then she always came up with the most beautiful ideas. So I think that if you studied the pattern, the model on the front of the booklet, that you could also do a finish like this. So you can see that this is a very narrow ribbon with hearts on it, and you could vary it depending on what ribbons you could find. This is just a gingham ribbon. I love this. It's like a little wool or felt poinsettia with 2 little buttons sewed on it. She did a little, just a twist of ribbon underneath that. And then I had this idea that down in the corner, I would take one of the trees from the design and stitch it on a separate piece of linen and make that part of the finished pillow. So that's one of my favorites. It's actually an older pattern. Yeah, well, not too old. It came out 7 years ago, and it's still available. So if you're interested, contact your favorite needle workshop, and I will be very appreciative. So what did I do with the booklet for this? I have this wonderful pile here. Oh dear, I don't see it. All right, I'll show you the designs and tell you about the name of the booklet. So this is called Be Joyful. I had to think a minute. And I have shown, there are 2 designs in this booklet. And again, my finisher did just such a fabulous job. First of all, this is the same alphabet that I used in the Be Merry design. So it looks very similar. I love the gracefulness of this alphabet. I used the alphabet that I could find in an antique French alphabet book, but then I did a little wreath in the center, and then I just put a little dove charm in here. You could put any kind of Christmas charm. And then my finisher finished it as a flat. You can see what the back looks like. She really padded the front of it, which makes it look so lovely. She added a bow and attached those with pins up here in the corner. And then she used the red and white twine for the twisted cording. And then look at this, the little circles with the pins at the base. I just think that is precious. And I'm so mad that I didn't bring the book. I'll show you next week. So this is the second design in that booklet, and this says Noel. Again, using the same alphabet, the same little wreath. This time I put a heart in the center, and the finishing is exactly the same as I showed you in the first model. These were stitched, let's look at this. These were stitched on a 32 count antique white linen using 2-ply of floss over 2 threads. So they wouldn't be difficult to do, and they would just make such a wonderful design to hang on a cabinet door or a clock or any kind of a place that you have in your house at Christmas time to put up decorations. So let's see, what else do I have here? I also have a set of sleds, and these when I set them down on my desk, they make a lot of noise, so I'm trying to set them on something else. So I've talked about the sleds before, but these are so much fun to make, and they're easy to make. And so the design I'm going to show you right now, I have 2 models to show you, is from a book called Little Red Sleds. So there are 3 designs in this booklet. And I stitched these actually, I stitched 2 models of each. So on the larger sled, I stitched this model over 2. And let's check the thread count. I used a 32 antique white linen. And then on the over 1 model, I stitched it on antique white linen over 28, which is usually my preferred fabric for over 1. Now let me tell you a little bit about the sleds. And you can go online to look for them. I meant to look them up ahead of time. They used to be made by a company, well, they still are, called Foxwood Crossings. But I and shops carry them, and you may be able to just do a search for metal sleds and find them for yourself. So the interesting thing is when you order the sleds, they're actually brown. And I just decided that they needed a little jazzing up. So I spray painted them red, and they come in 2 sizes. So actually, I think there's even a larger size than this, come to think of it. So this is the little design that I've worked over 1. And this is the larger sled. You can see the size of that. And I'd say it's about 5 inches, 6 inches long that I worked over 2. And in that booklet, there are actually, as I mentioned, 3 designs. So there is a Noel, there's the little village that I showed you, worked over 1, and then there's the word joy, same theme actually as the be joyful that I showed you before, but this time the spelling is worked vertically. So, and you could paint the sleds any color you want. Now, how are you going to finish them? This is always a good thing to tell you. Now, I've talked about these in older videos, but I've probably picked up a lot of new viewers since I first started, so I don't think it hurts to kind of review again. How would you go about finishing them yourself? And it really is not hard. The first thing I would do is, if you can study the shape of the sled, the top of it, you can see that it's curved at both the top and the bottom. So I would take that sled before I finished it, and you could put it on your printer and make a copy. You could put it on a piece of paper and do a tracing of it, but I'm going to show it to you from the back. You need to know the shape of this in order to get the shape of the backing to mount this design. And I've often talked to you about you need to make a template for yourself. This is the same kind of thing. So if you put this flat, make a tracing of that shape, then you'll be able to make a cardboard template to wrap your fabric around. And as I've mentioned before, let's see, my screen is going a little dark here. I would stitch the design. I would make sure that when I cut a margin for this, that I would put the template on top of it or underneath it to make sure that you're allowing enough margin of fabric to wrap around that board that you're using. And I've talked about this before. I use something called comic board. You can order it on Amazon. You can actually get it at comic board stores. One of my finishers uses it, my professional finishers, and the reason it's so great to work with is you can cut it with scissors. You don't have to use an X-Acto knife. So then you would put padding underneath this. So I would cut out, let's go back, I would cut out the comic board in this template that we've made. I'd put a couple layers of batting or even felt on there, and then I would cover that with the design. And then I just glue that once it's dry to the top of the sled. And the same, it's of course would be done exactly the same way, whether you're doing the over 1 or the over 2. Now when I make this template, I would make it about 1/4 of an inch shorter than the outside measurement of the sled, because you need room to not only mount it, but you also need room to do some kind of a trim around the edge. Now I did twisted cording. You could do pom-pom trim. You could do a chenille, would work beautifully. That's easy to glue on, and that trim is just glued on. I don't sew it on. That would be too difficult to do. And then I usually leave a little opening here at the bottom, because you need an opening at the base for those 2 ends of twisted cord to kind of meet and go underneath your opening. Let's see, it's right here down at the base. You need a place to hide those. You could also put a bow down here if you didn't like the way the joining was looking. That also hides a variety of mistakes. So I have a couple of other, there is a book called Little Green Sleds. I didn't bring those up today. And then I have 2 other books that use the sleds. I have a sledding snowman, and a sledding Santa. So I brought those models up to show you today. The same finishing that I described for the little red sleds would work with this design. And again, I worked it, actually the handle of this is very crooked and it needs to be repaired. But it's funny, often when I talk to you, I look at the models and I go, that needs work. But that's okay, I go back and I fix them after the video ends. But this is the model of the sledding snowman, or I'm sorry, Santa, worked over to, let's see what fabric I used. I used a 32 count Belfast, and the color was called Vintage Blue Whisper, and it's made by Swigert. So this model was stitched over two with 2 strands of floss, and it was finished in the very same manner that I described with the previous one. So again, I stitched this one over 2, and then I have the little version over 1. So those would be fun projects to do. They would make darling ornaments for your children or grandchildren. I could see putting a name down here at the base, or even a date. I think that would be really sweet. I added a few little star charms to that. You could find all kinds of things, and a little pom-pom trim for his hat. So those are the designs that come from the Sledding Santa booklet. So now what do I have to show you? This one is kind of an interesting one. When I say a design is old, this one falls into that category for sure. But the interesting thing is, so I have the models for this set of designs to share with you today. So it's called, let me start out and just tell you the name of the books, and then I'll rattle on about the rest of the information. So this is called Christmas Village 1, 2, 3, and 4. So when I first designed this, I pictured them as separate individual ornaments. And I pictured people choosing the ones they wanted. On the first one, there's a house and a barn and a church. And let's see if I can't find those exact models to show you. But I want to show you something that I did with it that kind of came later after I had designed the whole set of ornaments. I decided that this set of little village buildings would be darling worked as one design. I did not pull that model to show you because I should have, but because I've talked about it before. It's actually faded. Some of the colors have faded terribly. But what I ended up doing is I ended up doing a overall design using I actually only used, I think, 11 of the village buildings in this overall design. But this is a free PDF file. So if you were interested in not doing the single ornaments, you could just write to me and say, Judy, will you send me the PDF file? And of course I will. And it shows actually, so you'll get an overall view, the color view, and then you get a chart that shows you the placement of each of the buildings. And then I added, in order to tie the whole thing together, I added the wording, I will honor Christmas in my heart I'm sorry, let's read that again. I will honor Christmas and try to keep it in my heart all the year. And then I added also trees and little hills just to tie the whole design together. And I know of several people who have stitched the whole design and they love how it looks. So let me show you, let's see, I pulled all the ornaments. Let's see if I can gather the ones I need here. Do I have them all here? I might be missing one or two. I seem to be. That's okay. I'll show you what I have. So here are two of the designs in Christmas Village 1. So here's the little church, and here is the little barn. I did the little sheep in French knots. Let's talk about the fabric for this. I stitched all of these on a 28 Cashel white linen. And of course you could make them smaller by choosing a larger count. So that's two of the designs. I'm trying to be organized with setting these aside this year, this video actually. So let's see if I can find any more that I want to show you. So the next one, all right, has a chalet and a little gingerbread village. And let's see, I don't see the third building. Do I? Yes, I do. All right, no, I see two. So in Christmas Village 2, sorry about that. I was floundering, wasn't I? So in Christmas Village 2, there is a chalet, a gingerbread house, and then just a kind of a funny little house with red brick. I'm not sure what I was trying to do there. I think I was trying to make it look Swiss. So this is what the little gingerbread house looks like. That is a little button from Just Another Button Company, the little gingerbread boy. And then this is the chalet, and I added a little reindeer at the bottom of that one. And let's talk about the finishing on these. So these were professionally finished. And again, all you'd have to do is put it face down on your printer rather, and make a copy of it. These were all finished as in a house shape, but because they vary in size, you might have to make a template of each one, or you could make a template where they would all fit the same. But again, it's the same method. So you're going to have two pieces of comic board that are cut using your template. So one for the backing, one for the front. You're going to put batting under here. I sew those two pieces together. And then this is just ruched ribbon. And there are several wonderful finishers who have videos on how to do a ruched ribbon finish. My finisher does such a unique thing. I'm going to see if I can pull this out here. She attaches that ribbon with a little pin and a bead on top. It could be glued on, it could be sewn on by hand. Probably that would work better. And here's the little hanger at the top. So they were all finished in the same manner. So now the booklets from Village 3, let's see if I can find those. So we have a schoolhouse, we have an old mill, and then we have a little yellow house here. So let me show you first of all, this is what the booklet looks like. And the original models were worked in crescent colors, but as I tell you, there are always DMC equivalents in the booklets. So here is the little schoolhouse, which is dear to my heart because, as I've told you before, I was a teacher, a first grade teacher in my former life, which is probably why my voice sounds like it does. This is the little mill. I loved this one. This was a fun one to design. It's got a little bow across the top, a little Just Another Company star up there, and then this is just a little house, and it actually is supposed to have a tree charm on it, and sometimes things are removed from the models, and this one is missing. So this is another one that I need to fix. I'll put that aside so I don't forget to do that. And then the last design or booklet in that village series, let's see, it has a Victorian house in it, it has a barn, and then it has, let's see, I'm trying to think of how to describe this. I would say this is like an A-frame house. So let's show you the front of the booklet first of all. And here's the little A-frame house. And you can see from the shape, because that is a different shape, you might need a different template to get that to fit on your finish that you're doing. Here's the little Victorian house. It has a little tree and a fence, and they were just so much fun to think about what buildings I wanted to include in this little village. And then here's a covered bridge. So it was just a wonderful design to put together. I really enjoyed it, and even though it's an older design, the patterns are still available. So that's good news, right? So the last Christmas things that I want to show you today are, oh no, I've got two more piles here. So I talk about my Friends of JBW Designs Facebook page. About every 2 or 3 weeks I do contests that I've told you about. So just the other day, and you have to join the this group. It's a Facebook group. You just have to answer one question and you're in like Flynn. So this last week I did 3 little stockings, because I told you about I have this stocking series. There are 15 designs. They're called Sing a Song of Christmas. And so I thought I'd show you the ones that appeared in this week's contest, because these are different than the ones I shared with you last week. So this is I Saw 3 Ships. And I had wanted to do that for a long time. I just love the little shape of the ships and the colors. So it just says I saw 3 ships sailing in the morning on Christmas Day. I usually try to use the first line of the hymn or the song. And again, they're just finished as a flat. You're going to want to make a template to do the finishing. This is finished with a red chenille, which is really easy to use. So that was one in the contest, and it's always so much fun to read the comments. Some people say, I can't choose, I like them all. And then some people say, oh, this is my favorite, and they tell me why it's their favorite. So this is another one. It's called Winter Wonderland, and it's actually Sleigh Bells Ring. Are you listening? So this is what the model looks like. Just got a little sleigh and trees and a tiny reindeer, a church up there. And these were all stitched, the 3 I'm showing you today, on a 32 count Belfast antique white linen, and they were worked over 2 with 2 strands of floss. You could do them on 36 and use 1 strand, or 28. I've never done them over 1. I'd love to see them done over 1. They'd be so sweet, they'd be so tiny. So that's the second one in the contest. And then the third in the contest is Old Little Town of Bethlehem. And this too, I love doing that, trying to find buildings that looked like they would have belonged in Bethlehem, and choosing lots and lots of colors. The little sheep that are right here are done in French knots. And I always tell people, if you are not a fan of French knots, and I know some people just really do not like doing them, colonial knot is a great thing to use. Or if you can't do the knots, just use beads. It looks just as cute. So you can always replace the French knots that I use in my designs with beads instead. So that's what the Old Little Town of Bethlehem looks like. How still we see thee lie. So that was that set, and then I wanted to show you, because I've, modeled down. I wanted to show you, so I just finished Ornament Collection 5, and this is a set of books that I've been doing for a number of years, and I've talked to you about them before. They're spiral bound booklets. Each booklet has 20 ornaments in it, and now that there are 5 booklets, that means if you had the collection, you'd have 100 different ornaments to choose from to make. And the ones that are pictured on the cover are stitched over 1, but I'm going to show you some of the models stitched over 2 to show you how nice they look over 2. You do not have to do them over 1. Many people don't want to tackle that. I'm actually out of book 2 right now. It's being reprinted, but these have been selling really well. They're easy to use. As you open it up, they lay flat on your work table, and I use DMC, and sometimes I use the hand-dyed fibers, but certainly all the DMC equivalents are in there. So I chose 3 ornaments from each of the past collections just because it's fun to inspire you. So the 3 I'm going to show you right now are from Ornament Collection Book 3. So let's see what I chose today. This one, oops, it still is what I call a sweet bag. And it's actually in the original booklet. A lot of these ornaments were taken from my older patterns. And I thought it might be fun, and it turns out it has been, for instead of buying individual booklets, that you could buy one booklet and get a wide variety of designs. So many of the designs that I'm showing you appeared in older booklets, but I've started designing new ones in order to fill out the 20 ornaments. This one came from a book called Sweet Christmas Bags, and they were all stitched on a red linen with white floss, and then made just into a tiny little bag with little tied at the top with rickrack and stuffed with a little fiber fill. I just think it makes such a cute ornament on a tree. It's a little different than the traditional ornaments, and it would be easy to make this little bag. So that was one from book 3. And then here, I'm going to fix this a little bit here. Here's another one that appeared in book 3. And I have a series of books that are called, I'm trying to think, I have to remember. I might have to look up the title. I think they're Christmas Trees something or another. And there are 11 booklets, and each booklet had 2 trees in it, and the designs, of course, in each booklet were different. So I decided to take those trees and put them into the collection booklets. So this model I wanted to show you because this is the model worked over 2 on a 32 count. And it's just as darling as the ornaments that I show you that are tiny, that are worked over 1. And I just don't want you to be discouraged about not being able to work the ornaments. Absolutely, I give the sizes in the booklet for 28 count fabric and 32 count fabric. So that's one that's also in that booklet 3. And again, this is another tree that's in that collection 3, and this too is worked over 2 threads. So that's 3 little, I'm running out of space here to put things. So I'm going to pull out 3 from another book. Here are 3 from Ornament Collection 1. There was a wreath of trees. There was a little stocking. And these are actually quite quick to stitch. I would say most of them could be stitched in a night or 2. And this is the 3rd one. So easy to stitch, and if you need more advice on finishing, please ask for it, because I'm happy to help you with that. I don't want you to flounder with your finishing projects. So I'm going to show you 3 ornaments from book 4. There was a little snowman using all the little French country motifs. There was a heart filled with flowers, and then a church, which I have used in a lot of my designs. So that was from Ornament Collection Book 4. And then let's see, my last 3 here are from Ornament Collection 2. There was an ice skate. You know, just easy to finish. It's just a flat. Set up an assembly line for yourself. Here's another little tree that would have appeared in some of the tree collection booklets. And then here is a little Norwegian hat. So as I say, these are small designs. They don't take that long to stitch. And you know, you could intersperse the little, I know a lot of people that I watch on Flosstube are doing this these days. They are interspersing their large designs that they're working on, and I think it's a good lesson for all of us with little smalls, because we know we can get those done. It's very satisfying to have a finish. So, all right, I want to show you, let's see, I've got to look at my notes here. I'm going to show you my project that I'm working on, and I really need to stop working on this, but I tell you what, last time I showed it to you, a lot of people just loved it. It's not my design, it's a GGR design, and getting it out again to work on it was such a treat. And I'll show you what I've done since I saw you last time. So I didn't tell you a couple things that actually people asked about. I don't think I brought up the cover of this booklet. I will try to put the name of her company in the notes below. And if I don't, give me a reminder. So this design is from GGR. And she has many she has many designs. Many of them are antique samplers. But she also has many designs using a letter as the key theme in the design. And of course, I tried to find a W. She does not have a W, but she did have a J, and I absolutely love working on this. I started it 2 years ago. I really don't have that much time to work on it. I stitch my own models, and so I need to stop working on this and get back to model stitching, but I'll tell you what, it is so satisfying. So how am I going to show you what I've done since I saw you last time? It really helped me a lot. So there are 9 pages in this booklet, and when I showed it to you last time, I think I had, do I have this upside down? Sorry, I'm trying to find where I am, and I look like a lost soul. All right, let's try this again. Let's see if I can show you what I'm doing. All right, this is better. All right, so last time I showed it to you, I think I had the girl in, and I'm not sure I had these. And then I did this one, and there are a couple of insights for you. Everyone makes mistakes. I put this in the wrong spot. It should be down here a little lower, but I didn't realize it until I was all done. And I am following Jean Lee's rules. She's from the attic, of course, and she says, keep moving, don't stop, because you can make something work. And especially with this sampler, I'm going to put an initial in here, which I talked about before. So what I did over the last 2 weeks is I actually worked all of this, and I got down to the lower corner, which really helped me. It helped me to know, how tall. I knew I had enough fabric, but how tall it was, and that I could see. I mean, I still have tons to go. If I show you, the bottom here, you can see how much I still have to go. But in a way, it gave me a lot of hope. I thought, well, I could probably finish this, maybe this year, maybe next year. And then the other thing I wanted to tell you about this design is that I have made some changes in it. And I encourage you to do that with my designs too. There were certain elements in here that didn't appeal to me. Actually, up at the top, I replaced one with another pattern that I found. There's another element that's going right in here, and it had a duck in the center, and it just wasn't appealing to me. So that duck is not going to appear, but I figured out I can find another little motif to put in there. So I always tell you with my designs, make changes, change the colors, change the fabrics. You can move motifs around. It's okay. We don't mind. It's not going to ruin the design. So this has gone on very long for me. So I want to have a couple more announcements. So if I reach 5,000 subscribers, I'm going to do a big giveaway. So hopefully that will be incentive. But this week I have 3 winners from my last video. And I always choose my winners from the people that make comments. And I use a random number generator. So this, and the people who have won something, just tell me what I showed today that you liked, and I will send that to you as a prize. So the first winner is an unusual name. So it's just user, USER dash GY3, and then it goes on beyond that. So I hope user person that you recognize your name and will write to me. And the best way to reach me is judy@jbwdesigns.com, my email. The second winner this week is Heidi Miner. The third winner is Lisa Myers. I have just a few more announcements. I have a shop of the week, which I try to do. I really want to support our local needlework shops. They, excuse me, I need to get a quick drink. No hot tea today, only iced tea. They are the lifeblood of our industry. They are what keeps our industry going. Many of you do not have a shop near you. So when I show a shop each time, even if it's far away, I encourage you to call them, to give them business. So this week I chose a local shop, and I might have mentioned them before, but I can't remember. I need to keep a list of all the shops I featured. Excuse me. This shop is called Stitching Bits and Bobs. It's in Plainwell, Michigan, which is about 20-25 minutes from where we are in Kalamazoo. Let me get this up close so you can take a screenshot of it. It is in a little shopping center off the main street, and it's 211 East Bannister. And it's owned, here is Bobby's email address. It's bobby@stitchingbitsandbobs.com. It's owned by a husband and wife team, Bobby and Cam. And they are actually the couple who are going to be hosting our needlework marketplace wholesale market at the end of August. And I think they're doing such a good job. And then we're also grateful that they're putting on the show. We need a market at that time of year. And Bobby and Cam have tons of patterns. They have tons of fibers, and they carry a lot of older patterns. So I'm going to encourage you, if there's something that you're looking for, to give them a call or write to them. And again, supporting our shops is the best, and I thank you for doing that. So my quotation of the week, and this is something I've started following, this site that a friend told me about, and it's called Nice News. And it's just wonderful. It comes every day, and I see something that's a positive in our world today. And that's what we all need. So my kids tease me all the time, and my grandchildren, because and I've probably only done this as an adult. I was too shy to do it as a child. I talk to everybody wherever I go. At the grocery store, at the dry cleaner, and I think waitresses, I just think it's the nice thing to do, to recognize people who, even though you don't know them, that you just at least say hello and how are you doing. So this was the quote that appeared in Nice News this week, and I really liked it. It says, "Say good morning to the people you encounter in your day-to-day life. You never know who could use the extra boost, and you might find that it improves your mood too. Greet everyone, regardless of their role." And I think that's just a good lesson for us all, because there's so many people that are struggling and we don't know that, and it's just nice to say hello. So now, how to contact me. I think this is my longest video. I hope it doesn't bug you. Email, judy@jbwdesigns.com, Instagram, judy.whitman, Friends of JBW Designs Facebook. I have a website, and I have a shop on the website with older patterns, and you can order those on my website. And then I will put as much information as I can in the box below, in the description box. I had one little more thing to show you, and I meant to get this out last week, but I did this darling little, I was inspired by Tanya, the Scarlet House, because she's been doing these boxes with using jewelry boxes that you can buy on Amazon and finishing them with fabric and then putting all your treasures inside. And this one I decided needed a little more work. So I made some twisted cording because I felt like the edges weren't quite finished, and I just glued that around the inside edges of the box. So that was just another little hint if you're doing one of these boxes. And another video to watch is Colorado Cross Stitch. Tanya and Sherry of Colorado Cross Stitch talk about how, I can't close that yet for you, how to make those boxes this week. So check it out. Thank you so much, and I hope to see you in 2 weeks, and I appreciate your views. Bye-bye.